Hello there, Survivor! Today I'm doing a build tutorial of the ultimate Modern Tek Base in ARK Survival Ascended. I built this at the end of my time on the island to basically show that I had beaten the place and that I was worthy of using tech. So I built this using mainly tech and a little bit of greenhouse walls. But if you don't want to spend this much element, which I can very much imagine, you can of course also build it out of metal or maybe even other materials. The principle and the structure should still be the same. As far as I know, this is also possible to do on official. You might have to do some things a little bit different, but I try to mention those throughout this tutorial to make it a little bit easier for you. Now, if you're wondering why my glass looks so nice compared to the usual greenhouse glass, I'm actually using a mod that is called Clear Glass Walls, which allows you to change the look once you've placed it of a greenhouse wall to this clear structure and back again. But if you remove the mod, very importantly, it just stays the same greenhouse wall. So it's a nice addition if you can add it to make it look a little bit better. But if you don't, you can still use the normal greenhouse walls. Your view will just be slightly more blurry. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into the proper tutorial. Hopefully you enjoy. If you do, really help me out by leaving a like, subscribe to the channel, maybe leave a comment down below. And if you want to support me even more and be able to do this more often, then please consider becoming a YouTube member. With that being said, let's get to building. Now, of course, to get started, we're going to have to place down the foundations. Now, you either will need a fair bit of flat land, so you can place down this completely as foundations. In case you can't, you can also, of course, fill in some parts with having ceilings and maybe some pillars or other foundations lower down just to fill it in, but make sure you have foundation support for this entire shape. So the main square, the big square in the middle, which is going to be the A-frame, is actually 16 wide and then 13 long or deep. So it's actually longer than it is deep. So yeah, the front of the building is 16 long and the side is 13. So it's 16 going this way, 13 going like that. Then here to the left, we've got this little addition, which is 6 going outwards and then 7 going deep. So it's 6 going this way, 7 going like that. And then on this side, we've got another little addition, 5 going out and then 4 going back in. That is this little shape. And then the shape behind it is actually 14 going out and 6 going in like so. So you should get this shape down, see if it all fits. For me, it fit in most places, but some of them I had to place a foundation lower down and fill it in with like a ceiling and a wall. And the same over here. I couldn't place the foundations down. It's going to be very difficult to find a spot where you can actually properly use only foundations, but make sure you have this shape. Make sure you have the foundation support everywhere, and then you can fill it all in with foundations as well. Okay, there we go. We're going to start with the middle part of the build, which of course is going to be the main big A-frame. In order to get started, we're going to want to build up the A-frame to get the shape in and get started with a little bit of the basic structure before we can connect all the side parts to it as well, of course. So you want to go to both corners and just start connecting the front so that we know what the first main shape is gonna be like. There we go. So we should end up with something looking like this, and then we can actually extend this all the way to the other side as well, so that we can have the basic skeleton of where the A-frame is going to be. Once you reach the other side, of course, we can do the same as we did on the front. And just make sure that we've got this whole first shape down so we know where our A-frame skeleton is, because we're going to build up the supports for this first, because basically everything else, of course, is going to be connected to this first shape. So there we go. We're just going to fill in this one as well, connect it up with the skeleton, and of course having this go across the top, because we definitely know for sure that we're going to have this structure be there. So that should end up looking something like this. And then we can actually already extend this as well all the way to the bottom and fill in these remaining 2 pieces. The same here on the other side. Just fill this in because we're definitely gonna want to have that. So we'll do the same right there. Just making the A-frame basically go all the way down into the landscape just so it looks the most smooth from the outside. Then we're actually going to take our sloped walls. We're going to place them one down into the structure. And we're going to start the first support beam going down like this. Just so that it looks like we're actually going to be supporting the whole structure, the whole big roof of the structure. And we're going to do the same here on the other side as well. So just following the skeleton we just built to make a little support beam from top downwards. So this is basically the support of the entire structure. It's going to be part of the living quarters up there, but we kind of need it to get started. Then we actually want to connect a roof piece like so, because we're going to actually build some proper strong looking support for this build. Because obviously it's quite a big build. We want to make it look supported, and it just adds in a bunch of detail to our build this way. So we just want to follow this entire support. So we're one to the inside of the build and make this support beam a little bit thicker, going all the way through from the top to down below in the structure. And then maybe you've already guessed it, we're going to also place the walls here, just so that we can have the entire support beam closed off. And we're gonna be able to see this for most of it from all sides as a proper little support. It's gonna also basically divide the main hangar, the main room in this A-frame, up in different parts where we can have the separate doors to all the different sides of the build. So there we go. That is the first support beam down. We actually want to build this on the other side here as well. So pretty much the exact same thing we're going to do on this side. Okay, so then we should end up with something like this, with those support beams on both ends of the A-frame. But since it's quite a big A-frame, we kind of want one in the middle as well. So we're actually going to line it up right over here. So where this little longer side piece ends, in this place, we're going to start another layer of these supports for the A-frame. So we're going to just build it all the way up the same way. The other side is going to be a little bit different. We're going to just fill this all in again with the roofs as well to make the proper supports. But instead of doing the same thing on the other side, we're actually only going to do it this far from the top. Because of the interior that we're going to build here eventually. So only this part is going to be filled in here. So actually only one part here. And then we can just close this one off. We are, however, going to build it up from below as well. So basically there's just going to be a gap in it because of the interior of the living quarters of the A-frame. So we're going to want to build this up a little bit. Basically, you want to stop it right here. So that is the heights of 2 walls in between it, which is basically how big the living quarters door is going to be. So we just want to have it basically 4 of these sloped ceilings. So also 4 of these roofs that we can fill in. That is all we want to have, because then in the main living part, or in the main hangar part, we're going to have the supports, and in the living quarters we have some room for the door to the side. So this is what we should have right now in terms of the support beams for this main A-frame. Okay, now what we can actually do on this left side of the building, we can have some of these hidden walls, because that way you could still have some storage or maybe some power or whatever you want hiding behind these walls. So this side we're going to completely fill in. On the other side, we're just going to use the regular walls, and we're going to only have 2 at the side of the support beams, like so, because we're actually fitting in the gates between them. There we go. So like this. These are going to be the 2 side gates to the crafting area and the storage area to the side. And on the other side, it's going to be slightly different. First off, you also want to make sure that you filled in this entire side part with foundations. And we're actually also going to raise this. So we're going to have some walls on top of these foundations, because we're going to raise this entire bit by 1. So we can just go all the way around, and then here, of course, connect it again with sloped walls, so that this entire thing is connected. And then, of course, we'll take out our ceilings, and we'll start filling in this entire level as well. Okay, so we should end up with this raised platform on this side. We actually also want to make sure that we have our gate going on here. So we'll place that right here in the middle of this part of the structure, but it is raised, as you can see. We'll make sure to connect that in a little bit as well. And we can actually start filling in a little bit of these roofs as well. So make sure though to go 3 high for at least this part of the building. We're going to fill this all in until this gate, of course, because we want to be able to access that. And then we can just continue to fill this in as well, because there's all going to be inside of this building part, as well as fill in these, and of course the support beam as well, because we're not going to want to be able to look inside of that. Same goes over there, and same goes over here on this side. So for now, we should fill it in until it looks like this. Okay, and this is where we're going to start filling in the walls for this structure. So we're going to go 3 high with greenhouse walls and basically fill it all the way in until we get, of course, to the part where we have the roof interfering. So we want to fill it in this way, and of course we'll do the same on the other side here as well. Just everything being 3 high with the greenhouse glass walls, because that's the best glass that we have in the game. And of course we're going to raise this up as well, but it's going to be slightly different. We're going to keep a little gap right here and fill in this wall as well, because we're going to have another gateway right there. So right here we're going to place another tech gate so that you can also leave and access the facility by that side door. Okay, so now we need to actually connect this to the main structures. There's 2 ways to do this. We can just use normal sloped greenhouse glass walls to connect to the shape that we have existing. That's probably what you're going to want to do on official. But if you're building and you have collisions enabled, there's actually another way to do a cool little design. We're going to fill this in first with sloped tech walls, but this looks a little bit strange, so we're also going to connect them like this. And if you're allowed to have collisions and overlapping, you'll be able to just kind of push these 2 on the same layer, which adds a nice little detailed line to it. And if you're then also using the clear glass wall mod that I have installed, you can easily change these greenhouse glass walls to the clear glass walls, which I'm not going to do for the tutorial because that takes a long time, but it is an option to make this base look like the one that I've got going on over there. Of course, we'll use the same trick on the other side as well. So if you have overlapping, you can do it with the tech walls, and otherwise just use normal greenhouse sloped walls. Okay, now we're getting pretty close with the shape of this building. We want to go around the outside and fill this in with some ceilings, and actually stick them out by 2 on the outside here, just to get a little bit of extra room and to create the nice interesting shape that this building has going on, to make it feel more modern and a lot less boxy as well. And then we'll fill in the panels all the way like this, so the ceilings all the way like so. So you actually want to make sure that you fill in another layer of ceilings right here, so that you've got 3 of them on this side, which is not connected to the A-frame. Then we're actually gonna keep 5 layers of ceilings open, so that we can have a big hatch frame here on top of the building to easily access this part of the build with some chains. You can just drop them in right over here through the hatch frame, and makes it a lot more useful. Okay, we're just gonna fill in these tech gates here as well to finish off this room. And then we can also fill in a behemoth cellar door here on top. And I would suggest making the settings so it doesn't actually auto open, only auto closes, so that you can still land on top of here, you can still use the roof, and only when you want to, you open it up to go inside. Now, of course, we also need to fix this little bit next to the gate we placed, so we're going to start with some of the tech sloped walls and just slope them up like this to make a little bit of a more interesting shape going up like so. Then we can actually just use normal greenhouse ones, and you want to start from the ceiling and just slope them down like so on both sides, just to create a little bit of a more interesting shape. And then the last little one, you can again use the tech one to fill in that little gap, and then this whole gap on the side is completely filled in. Now actually you want to open this one up where the support is, because then we can have another ceiling there. You can place a wall over there. Then we're actually gonna look all the way up, and we're gonna create a little opening here, so right above the one that we just had, because this is the perfect place to connect a little elevator so you can easily go up and down. For now, I'll place it right at the top, so we still have somewhat of a ceiling going on. But this will bring you right up to this layer whenever you need it. Of course, as soon as it's powered. Now, if you want to add some extra detail alongside this gate, you can also just have some pillars, or beams, I should say, going across the sides, just to kind of have that little edge going around it. So this is the shape that we've got going on so far. Not very nice to look at. So what we actually want to do is you want to take out some quarter ceilings, and we want to go around all the way like this, creating a little edge, and then actually also taking out our quarter walls going underneath, and really creating this little border around the build, and then of course filling it in again at the bottom, so it's not just floating but actually a proper little border going all around the entire build. So I would just go around the bottom of this side structure and make sure that we fill it all in. And here at the end, of course, we have an interesting problem, because we don't have like a quarter sloped wall like this. So if you have the overlapping, I believe you can just do this and just continuing it. But I'm not sure if this is able to be done on official. But then I would just end it wherever you can end it. And you still have this little edge, which gives a nice little bit of detail. So there we go, you should end up with something like this, and you can instantly see how that little edge adds a lot of detail to this otherwise quite boring side building. So we're actually gonna be doing the same thing up here. So you want to once again go around adding these quarter ceilings, and then on top of that you want to do the quarter walls, and then we basically create this little edge again, which also functions as some kind of railing, I suppose, for when you're on top of this build. So you just want to make sure that once again we go around the entire side building that we've made, and we add in this little edge. Okay, and then we should end up with something looking like this, and you can instantly see that helps a lot, making this whole place look a lot more interesting and add a bunch more detail to this side build. But we're gonna add some more. We're gonna want to have this snap point right here, get some sloped tech walls going down and connecting to the structure like this, just to give even more shape to this side building. Of course, we want to make sure that we do that on both sides. So here at the back, we're going to have the same line going down and connecting up to the edges that we've just made. And then if you're not on official and you have the overlaps available, you can actually add a second line of them going right here, overlapping with the greenhouse glass walls that we've placed. So you also see a little bit of that line from the inside as well. So unfortunately you can't do this on official, I think, but for if you're not playing on official and you have the overlapping available, this just adds in that extra little bit of detail from the inside as well. And that's pretty much it for this side part, except of course we want to make sure that we can actually access it properly. So you want to take out some stairs, attach them here to the side so you can easily get in and out of it, and you can even add some railings to the top of it if you're allowed to, of course. The bottom railings here are always a little bit more tricky. Sometimes you can just kind of angle the second layer of railings in like so that you still have a little bit of railing, but they never really line up with the stairs if the stairs goes into the landscape. But this again depends very much on your landscape, but at least it gives you an extra access point to get into your building. Of course, we also want to add in some stairs on this side, and here we can definitely have our railings attached to it. So that basically finishes this portion of the build, the little side building here that I used as my dino laboratorium, the breeding, hatching and everything. And the good thing about using these secret walls is that you can also access this compartment below to maybe have some extra hidden storage there. Okay, then it's about time to connect up these parts by working on the middle part where the living quarters are going to be. We're going to use some ceilings, connect between the support beams that we've made. So we're just adding another layer of ceilings in right there. We'll actually fill in that one as well. And we can actually do the same thing here on this side. So using ceilings to connect these supports, and we'll continue right over here as well. Until basically we have completed a full lap of the entire building to connect all these pieces up. And then we will actually have one more line going from the middle support to the other side as well. Then we can actually start filling in these shapes that we've just created with some wooden ceilings, just to add in a different type of color and material as well. For the living quarters, it's just nice to have a little bit of wood because it makes it feel a lot more homely than the tech ceilings if you fill in that way all the way through. But of course, personal preference, maybe you want to have the metal or tech look everywhere, then you can of course also just use normal ceilings as well. Then it's actually time to start working on what the shape of the roof here is going to be. So we're going to add 2 of these roofs on both sides. We're going to take out our greenhouse glass walls again, and we're going to make the shape like so. We're going to leave some space for the door there in the middle, and we're going to raise it to be too high. And we want to fill it in as far as we can. Now again, on official, you probably want to use the greenhouse slope wall right here to fill in this part. But if you can do the overlapping, again, we can go for a nice little line like so, just to add in the extra bit of detail and shape, and also keep it consistent throughout the entire build. Now you can also add in some tech pillars here on the corners, just to add in a little bit more of that tech feel to this build and finish off this shape. And then I would probably paint those pillars black as well. And then right here we can add in our double door so that we can have like a nice little tech doorway right there. Like so, just to, you know, get that futuristic look down. We're going to use greenhouse ceiling here on the top. just to fill in this part of the structure to have the nice glass look. And we're actually going to have a little edge around it with the tech quarter ceilings as well, just to kind of make sure that we have a nice little edge to this shape. We're not going to do it like we did around the whole platform, because that makes it look a little bit too thick, too heavy for this little smart part that we have going on right here. Then you want to take out your greenhouse roof and just fill in the remaining pieces here of your roof like so. So we have a lot of light coming into the living quarters. And then we want to kind of do the same here on this side. So we'll fill in this entire shape with the greenhouse and then fill this part in with the normal roof. And then we still have a little part of the roof right here. You can choose, but I kind of like to also have some glass going in here so that we have some light going into the garage from the side as well, which will allow a little bit easier light in here instead of just having to use lamps everywhere. As you can see, this side of the hangar is looking pretty much done, as well as this top balcony that we have going on right here looks pretty much done. We have the access to the living quarters from here, and we also have our elevator going up and down, the hatch frame, and of course the gateway right here on the side. So this part of the build is done. We can actually start filling in this with roof pieces, of course, because this is part of the support beam. We're not going to want to see that. And as well, we can fill this part in right here too, so that we create this little shape, and we can have some more greenhouse roof as well to have more light into the living quarters, because light, it's just very nice, isn't it? Then actually let's quickly finish these walls for the living quarters as well. Now, depending on whether you're on official or whether you have overlapping available, you would start filling it in with the greenhouse walls, just like normally, wherever you can place them. Then on official, you probably want to use the sloped greenhouse walls to fill in the rest of the shape. But if you do have access to overlapping, you can actually just fill in more greenhouse walls like this, so that we integrate them with the shape that we already created. And then if you're using the same clear glass wall mod that I use, you can change all this to the more beautiful glass texture. But of course, if you're maybe building on a modded server where they have other materials that have like glass walls, you can also use those. So actually very easy to finish off this wall of the living quarters. Then we're actually going to get started here on the storage part. So we're going to raise this up by 3 high and just place down all walls everywhere like so, to kind of get this whole shape started. And again, it's going to be 3 high all around, so like this. And once again, you want to fill this in pretty much until you're against the roof. So for official, you'll probably just use your greenhouse sloped walls again, but for us with overlapping, we can again use these tech walls to get that little line going again and add that little bit of extra detail into this shape. Then actually we want to be right here on the inside, and we're going to place 2 more walls on top of this just to kind of flush it out with the tech gate that we've been using here. We want to fill in just our support beam right like this. Well, actually, we're gonna take this away, since this is kind of part of the build. We're gonna take it away like so, and we're just gonna place down a normal wall here so that we use this little bit of extra space here as well. Okay, so right now we have this. Of course, you want to just fill in this middle part with foundations as well. And then we can start connecting this whole thing up. We want to just have the roof continue on this layer. And then we can just start filling this in with ceilings as our roof for this storage part. So for now, we're only doing this part where we're actually building the storage. Even though, of course, in a little bit, going to be building the main crafting area behind it as well. But for now, we just want to fill this whole platform in with ceilings. And then once again, we want to make sure that the ceilings stick out by 2 here on the outside, so we can start creating a more interesting shape again. So it should currently look like something like this. And then you can probably guess it. Same thing as we did on the other side. We're gonna go around this edge with some quarter ceilings and slowly add in that little border shape that we created before. Again, we're gonna also use the quarter walls just to fill in this entire shape. Of course, this will very much depend, of course, on your landscape, because, well, you can already see it here. It kind of aligns with the normal landscape. So normally you want to also go around, fill in this bottom bit everywhere, but probably I'm not going to be able to do this for every single one. Keep that in mind. There will probably be a material list in the description or in the video or in the comments, but that is based on what I'm using in this video. So my landscape won't allow me to place extra things here, so you will have to adjust for that yourself depending on your landscape and maybe add a few extra materials into the list. So we'll have this little edge, but of course we're going to want to do the same thing on the top here again. So let me demonstrate what we're going to be doing right across all of this, except of course for this back portion where we're still going to be building the main structure. We're going to be wanting to kind of make this little edge again alongside your roof. So with those walls and quarter ceilings, you want to create this shape all around into the build. Okay, and then we should end up with something looking like this. Now, these borders that we've just added to the build, the bottom one and the top one, I would probably paint those black for a better look like I did in my main build. But of course, that's also completely up to you because it does take a little bit of extra time. Now, we will be snapping the sloped walls here again to make for that more interesting shape. And once again, if you are able to do overlapping, you'll probably want to add in another one of those into these greenhouse walls, just as an extra little bit of detail to the inside as well. But that basically is this little storage addition to our build already done. It's not too big, but still it will house a bunch of storage, as I'll show you in a little bit when we do the full tour of my build. And actually we want to probably just start off with filling in this whole foundation as well, just because we're going to be building and it makes it a lot easier if we have the support everywhere. Okay, so we want to actually start off by filling in this wall completely, just to make it completely flush. And we can also remove this piece so that we have a little bit of extra space from this side. Now, from over here, we actually just want to fill in this part of the roof like so. And of course, all the way until we have this part of the supports filled in as well. And then we actually want to fill these in as well as these two. And then the row above, we actually can do the greenhouse roof as well, so that we have a little bit of light coming in there. So actually in here, we also want to add in some extra walls. You can again use the secret doorways for if you maybe want to be able to store something behind this. But it just adds in a nicer wall where you can build things against for your interior, instead of having the roof portions of the walls everywhere. And then of course you also want to make sure that you actually fill in the sides here, because otherwise you can just look inside. The same over here actually. And then here, this is where we're going to have our doorways. So we're going to have some tech doors in here, of course, to access the crafting portion of the structure. And we're going to have 2 greenhouse walls on top of that. But as you can see, that looks a little bit clunky. So we're going to be adding in our little sloped tech walls here, just to make this little shape work here and close off this whole area. So right here on this side as well, of course. Okay, and then we've almost integrated those living quarters to this side addition. We're going to just raise up this wall by 1 more. And we're actually going to have some supports here with some roofs. And of course, we want to fill in these sides as well, just to make them look a little bit nicer. Like so, on both these sides. And these are just to support like the little overhang we're going to create here, because now we can actually fill this portion in with some ceilings. So we'll just connect them like so. Make sure to keep this corner one open, because we're going to be adding an elevator in here in a little bit. And we can just connect these ceilings up against the roof, and this will connect to the living quarters as well. So this is basically the access point from the living quarters into your main build. So your crafting station, and of course the storage down below as well as your roof over there. Of course, don't forget to fill in these doors as well. And whilst we're at it, we might as well fill in these gates with the proper tech gates as well. Now, before we forget, we'll add in the elevator right here. So this will give you access from below up to your little deck that overviews the storage area. And I would definitely add in some safety railings. Unless you want to go for the full Star Wars vibes, then definitely do not add any safety railings at all. Now we're gonna make the wall between the storage area and the crafting area, and we can actually add in another little tech gate right here, but do not fill in the actual gate unless you really want to, but I wouldn't, because it's annoying if it opens and closes all the time. And then we can actually fill in the wall between these two with some more greenhouse glass walls. Now on official, you might want to remove this here. We can just leave it be, because we can overlap, of course. And that means that the storage structure is completely sealed off from this structure. And we can actually continue to fill in these walls. These walls are going to be a total of 6 high. So we have 3 down there. So we're going to raise them up another 3 to make this work. And again, we're going to get them as close to the roof structure as we possibly are allowed to do. So right here, we're just going to continue the wall all the way, making it 3 high, because we're already on top of the roof of the storage portion. But then we can continue all of the wall, which again is a total of 6 high. So there we can see it's going to be 6 high. And now we're finally past the little storage portion. So make the wall 6 high and basically fill it in almost all the way around. Let's just first do this side of the building. There we go. So that's a very big glass wall. Then on this side, we actually want to leave open a little space for another tech gate. So leave a gap of 2 by 3, 3 high, 2 wide. That's where we can have another little tech gate, and the rest of this we can just fill in 6 high in total for a big crafting area. So this side should be something like this. Then for the back side of the building, you can actually just fill in this entire thing to be 6 high. So we can just go all the way up, and again we're gonna get as close to our established roofs as we are already allowed to. So that is going to be for this side, and then just fill in the rest of this wall to be 6 high. So right now we have a very boxy shape, but of course we're going to fix that. On official, just use the greenhouse slope walls, but here we're going to of course do our little edge along the side of the roof, just to add in again a little bit more of an interesting shape to the build. And we'll do the same on the other side here as well, just because we want to have in a little bit more of those shapes to make it look good. And this one will actually connect all the way down to the edge of the foundation. And you can probably already guess what we're about to do. Again, we're gonna do this at the top and bottom. We're gonna have this little edge around, just to add in a little bit more detail to our shape of the building basically. And again, I would also suggest painting these black eventually, just because it adds a little bit of nice contrast that makes the build look even better. So create a little edge again and look across the top and bottom wherever you're able. Of course, this very much depends on what kind of terrain you're working with, whether you can actually complete the full shape. But we want to just go along and try to fill this in wherever we can, because the shape will help the build stand out a little bit more and make it a lot less flat. So just go around the entire shape and do this everywhere. Oh, and a quick note about the bottom one right here. We're gonna do something different. So where the gate is, don't do the bottom layer just yet. Okay, so for these ends, I would actually not let them stick through, just because we have the glass here will look a little bit ugly, and here as well, because you would be able to see them from the outside. So I would just end them a little bit early to make it look a little bit nicer. And again, I would definitely paint those little borders, the little edges that we made, completely black. Now you might have noticed that I did not do them on here. This is where I, on my original design, just have a little balcony going on, but obviously, well, that's sticking out on over a cliff. But depending on where you're building, you probably just want to make this into another way in and off from your base. So I'd probably just go for something like this, and then have some nice railings all around, of course, to keep you completely safe even on your small little porch. And then I would probably just end these shapes that we've made maybe right over here. So let them stick out one, but that's probably about it. There we go. And then for the end of this, of course, we want to also add in our little tech gate right there, and then fill in the proper gate as well to finish off this end of the build. Okay, and well, you know the drill by now. We want to add in a little bit of extra shape to the build. So we're going to start by bringing this all the way down to the bottom edge, so that we have a little bit of shape going on right here. And then we want to do the same from this angle, make it go up like so. Now this is where it will intersect. If you have overlapping, you can just do it like this, but if you're an official and it probably won't allow you, you can just place one full wall there instead of these sloped walls and connect it like that. But at least by adding this extra beam in, we create even more shape to this whole build, and yeah, looks a little bit more interesting. Now for the people that have the overlapping, we can of course add one to the inside as well, because it will just add a bunch more detail to the inside of your building as well as the outside. So we just want to follow the same shape and get it all the way to the bottom. And then of course we can pretty much do the same thing here, because we want to have that little shape going on the inside as well. So there we go, that should be it. It adds a little bit of an extra nice cool shape to this building. You can already see this part of the build coming together. And we actually want to add in another one of these. So right above where this little ledge is, so from the first roof, we want to go there and then have it come down from there like so. Connect it back up to this little platform, because that just adds in that extra little shape on this side as well. And again, if you do have the overlapping available, we can do this right here as well to make sure that we have the same line visible on the inside as well. Speaking of having the overlapping available, now we can actually, if you are on the inside, you can see these really help adding some shape. We can actually extend these lines and make them go all the way down so that they connect up with the gate there. And then you also probably want to continue this line and have that continue across this way as well, just to add in that little bit of extra detail. And we'll do this until we run into this wall there. But for the looks, we probably just want to make sure that we continue it all the way there to the side, just to add in that little bit of shape and make it more make it make more sense from the inside out as well. Now we got a bunch of details on this side, but not so much on the other side. Basically, those diagonal lines that we created on here, we want to have them on this side as well. And of course, we'll start here right on the outside, starting by this one almost at the end of it. And just take this diagonal all the way down. Now you'll see on my build, actually, I didn't have the space to add in the little edge down below because of the landscape. So that is an example of the landscape dictating what you can and cannot do. If you place this last one, you want to go all the way up. And this is actually where the other one starts. So you want to find the right snap point. And then you can have this one go on. And this time, of course, since there is no building in the way, you can just have it go all the way down to the bottom here. And again, if you do have the overlap available to you, you can go for the same line here on the inside as well, so that we have that detail from the interior of the building as well as from the outside. Same with the second line, of course. And here, of course, we can also add in the extra support beam like so to create that same effect as we did on the other side. Now, of course, we want to make sure that we're able to access this roof because you can still place down a couple of things up here. So we want to add in another tech doorway here, extend this little ceiling with another one to the outside. Then we'll grab the stairs, connect them like so. Grab the thin tech pillars to make a little support like this, and then grab some railing to add a little bit of safety to this. And this way you can still connect to or still access this roof. I myself have placed down my transmitter here so you can easily get transferring to other places, but of course feel free to add whatever you want or need. But don't forget to add in the door as well, just to finish off this shape here. Now, before we get to filling in this entire layer down here, I want to add in another hatch frame so that we can also access it from the sky, drop in dinos with resources. So we're going to actually add in a little edge of quarter ceilings to make sure that we can line it up properly, because one of those big cellar doors is actually 5 by 5 and this place is 6 by 6. Little edge of the quarter ceiling, we actually do make it 5 by 5 in the middle. So we just need to make sure that we go out by 10 of these. So this is 6 right now. That's 8. That's 10. So if we do that on both sides, we should be able to perfectly fit in another one of these cellar doors. And again, I would probably make them only auto close, not auto open, so that you can still use the roof normally as well. Then we can just start from right over here and start filling in this entire layer of the roof with ceilings up until the hatch frame that we've just done. And right here at the hatch frame, you want to end up with the one layer of quarter ceilings again to fill it all in. And just as we did on the other side, we can have some beams around the cellar door just to add a little nice edge to it, making it look a little bit nicer, a little bit more detailed, in my opinion. So we'll just go all the way around, adding in those beams like so. Okay, well then we're almost completely done with building this insanely big structure. We actually just want to make another small A-frame here. So right here, we're going to place down 3 more roofs. Like so. And then of course on the other side, we'll have it going down by 4 in total. It will overlap a little bit, so an official probably want to remove this linking piece in the middle. I would still keep the beam here just as a little nice edge. Just remove the piece that is causing the problems. Then right here, we want to extend this shape until right over there. And here we can actually extend it by 1 more. We'll have it go down like this, but just don't fill in the corner because of course then you can't really access it anymore. So we'll do the same over here. We'll just go down until we connect up with the other roof. So the main roof that we had before. We'll add a nice little edge right here as the skeleton. And then we'll add our greenhouse roof here to make sure that we get plenty of light to the inside as well. Because at least in my build, I use this as a proper little greenhouse on the top of your building, but of course you're free to do with it whatever you like. Now we actually want to make sure that we place down a roof corner here so that we do kind of end off the shape, but we can still pass underneath it. And then, as we've done many times, we want to kind of trace this shape with these sloped walls in order to kind of create this nice little support end shape as well. I would kind of end it like that on this side. We'll do the same over here. Obviously, we have a little bit of overlapping going on, so just fill in whatever pieces you can place and maybe remove a couple of those quarter walls to make it work on official. I'm not quite sure what will be allowed on official. And then we'll just finish this shape here as well, filling in the entire edge like this. Then I would add a double door right there, and for the rest of it we can just use the normal greenhouse walls again. Again, on official, just fill this in with the greenhouse sloped walls. But if you have an official and you have the collisions enabled and you want to change them to the other glass texture, just fill them in with full walls, because only the full walls you can change to that texture. And of course, we want to fill in the back here as well. So just like so, we'll fill all of this in. Now you might be wondering, how do we access this part? So I would probably add in a nice little wall right here. And then it's just a very short elevator ride to that next layer. So like so, we can access this. And as I said, I made a little greenhouse in here so you can grow some plants in here. But of course, feel free to do whatever you want to do with it. And there we go. That is the ultimate Modern Tek base. This is a very big base, a very cool base in my opinion. I really enjoyed building and designing this, and hopefully you will as well. And if you do end up building this, feel free to share your screenshots with me on Twitter or join my Discord and share them over there. Okay, let's take a little look at my tech base that we've just built, as well as the interior. As you can see, I've got the nice fancy clear glass, which is part of the clear glass mod. I think I showed it over a little bit, but what it does, you can basically just interact with the greenhouse wall and change the look of it. I think there's also something similar as a custom cosmetic, but this was just more convenient for me to use, as well as all my friends that are playing on the same server instantly see the same as well. Of course, if you're building with mods on the server, there's different materials that you could do this very easily with as well. So first off, we got the main hangar. As you can see, I have a little addition to this with a little ceiling sticking out as a little bit more of a landing platform to access it. It's also where my teleporter is placed, and a bunch of turrets to keep the place safe. But this hangar is actually big enough to house like T-Rexes and UTs very easily. I think Garchas you can fit inside, but they'll clip through the floor of the next layer, unfortunately. So most tames can fit, but obviously the biggest ones can't quite get inside. Let's go over here to the left area, which is my dino area. This is where I can breed, where I can hatch things, and you can see all the air conditioning. Basically, this is everything related to the dinos. The breeding, the hatching, the growing up, the cryopods, and a little bit of storage as well. So making kibble and stuff like that. We could also do right here, as you can see. Right now I'm looking at some very curious specimens of dinos that look quite out of place. And of course we also have our little gate right here to quickly access it, and most dinos should be able to fit in here as well. Otherwise you can bring them in through the roof. Let's just quickly grab our little elevator, which is another cool way to get to every different layer of this base. If we go right up here, you will see, of course, this entire roof where we have the access through this hatch, but also just a couple of benches sitting around just to enjoy the roof. And again, a bunch of turrets to make this all safe. It's also the access to our living room. I've used a couple of custom cosmetics. I can actually change these out now with the new Frontier stuff that we've gotten with Scorched Earth DLC. I can probably just use those instead without having to do all the effort to get some custom cosmetics to work. We got a little kitchen area here. We got my trophies, got my little station to change my hair, and as well as a little cozy place around the fireplace here as well. But there's plenty of space in here to decorate to your heart's desire. And I've got a couple of places here for some of the chibis. Then this is the way, of course, into the main crafting area. And we can see downstairs, you can basically fit in everything that you need to craft. I think the only thing that doesn't fit in this facility is the cloning thing, because that's just too big. That's a ridiculous size. Right here on this layer, as I said, I have built my transmitter, so I can easily transfer back and forth to Scorched and back here to the island, because we got a little cluster going. Here I actually added another little room, a very, very important room. You might want to add that as well. And that is basically this layer. Then, of course, we've got a little small elevator up to the second A-frame, which, as I said, I've turned into a greenhouse. I'm not currently planting anything because I usually spend my time on Scorched right now. But yeah, you have the little A-frame. You've got this roof. I've decorated it. A little bit of plants / protections, I guess, here on the roof. And more turrets to protect me as well as the other hatch frame. Then we're right in here. Actually, fun little fact. I think I've already showed this off. But yeah, you can have a little bit of extra room right under here if you use these hidden doors. And then here we have the 2 doors for the crafting area as well as the storage area. You can actually fit in quite a decent amount of storage here, which should probably last you quite a while. I've got some crafting down here. Got a little bit of more storage right here around this door. Elevator, of course, going up to that layer. The forge, the replicator, the grinder, chemistry benches, the fabricator. We've got everything here to be able to craft all the stuff that you could ever need. So that is why I call this my ultimate modern tech base, because it basically has room for everything that you can ever need. And that was it for this tutorial. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment if you really appreciated it. It really helps me out a ton. And if you want to show even more support, of course, consider becoming a member so that you can support me in doing this more often as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.